Welcome everyone to the Pick Six podcast, where we discuss the biggest stories in college football. I'm your host, Chris Chang, and as a reminder, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps us get these videos out and up there into the interwebs. Also, send us your story ideas to thepick6guys@gmail.com. We want to know, what do you guys want to see and hear us talk about? So, with all the formalities out of the way, let's jump into this week's game. Number 15, Miami looks to keep its playoff dreams alive as they take on the WOLFPACK of North Carolina State. Miami is a 14.5-point favorite, so we will be hopefully coming out of this with a nice win. We have a familiar face, though, coming home and ready to prove himself in front of what I am hoping will be a packed out Hard Rock Stadium. It's the last home game of the year, guys. We got to show up for these kids. CJ Bailey is comparable to Beck. That is the North Carolina State stud quarterback. He heralds from Chaminade Madonna. He played with JoJo Trader and Jeremiah Smith. He was their quarterback. He has more yards than Carson Beck right now at 2,411. He's got 2,411 yards. Less interceptions at 7. He's got 19 touchdowns and just slightly below Carson Beck in the completion percentage at 70%. So again, this kid is hot stuff. Something tells me he'll probably be in the transfer portal. Some are saying he may be our quarterback next year. He leads a very good, maybe not elite, maybe we won't go elite, but a very good offense that is averaging nearly 30 points per game. They also have two very stout running backs, one of them returning in Hollywood Smothers and Jaden Scott. Both have put up so far 1,256 yards over the season, averaging over 6 yards per carry. And if you factor in CJ Bailey's feet, he's a mobile quarterback, that number jumps all the way up to 1,400. Now, the ground game isn't the only weapon they have. All of their wide receivers are averaging over 13 yards a catch, and they have 5 wide receivers with explosive playability with plays over 50 yards or more this season. These guys are deep threats. They will throw the ball down the field. So you're going to want to keep an eye on wide receivers Terrell Anderson and Wesley Grimes. Those are the guys that CJ Bailey likes to go to. Now, NC State and the Wolfpack have a very hot offense. Defense, not so much. Passing yards allowed, they rank at 133rd, pretty much bottom 5 team in all of the FBS. They're 127th in EPA and yards allowed overall. That's roughly 6.5 yards per play they're allowing. And they're decent, but not strong in their front 7. They're allowing roughly 33 points per game. So again, goal probably keep CJ Bailey off the field, rack up points on this defense that should hopefully be very malleable. I think this is what Miami needs to do to get a very good and sound win. They need to, I believe, set the edge with Bain and Mesidor. Hopefully these guys can set those basically just 2 pillars up, not bite too early for CJ Bailey if he wants to run up the middle and hit those big D tackles that we have. Next, linebackers will need to play very disciplined. They need to make sure that the gaps are as closed as possible and try to minimize big gaps that can open for both those running backs we were talking about earlier and CJ Bailey to shoot up. The team overall needs to play smart. Got to limit. We looked pretty good last week. Limit or eliminate costly penalties. Again, I understand playing a perfect game is very hard, but if we can limit those penalties or make them non-factors, which I know is kind of redundant to say because it's like most penalties do factor into the game, but hopefully they can be minimal penalties that will not kill drives, not extend the opponent's drives. And then I think this is the most important thing Miami needs to do. Miami needs to come out with its hair on fire. They need to have a fast start, put this team away, and annihilate any momentum they have in that first half. We've been slow the last 2 games coming out. Granted, we have come out at halftime really strong, but I'd like to see Miami really kind of do what they did against FSU and against USF. These were very dominant first half games. The USF being a dominant overall game. Love to see us get back to that. Again, NC State, not pushovers, but at the same time, I'm not sure if they're going to be in Alabama or a Georgia in terms of difficulty playing them. So I see Miami realistically taking this one 45-31. Could be a bit of a shootout. Going to give NC State a little bit of credit because, again, I think CJ Bailey is the real deal. And there is a high chance he could show up and show out because we are sure he will have a lot of people in attendance. Moving over to the second game we will be covering, we've got number 9 Notre Dame traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the number 22 Panthers. Now, Notre Dame is an 11.5-point favorite in this game. Both teams are coming into this game with high-powered offenses. Both teams can put up a lot of points. Pitt trading in their veteran QB for a true freshman and finding true success. The Panthers have drilled off 5 consecutive wins since switching to Mason Heinschel. Notre Dame secondary ranks 90th, allowing more than 230 yards per game. So keep an eye on that. Mason may have a good day. I hate his last name. I'm probably mispronouncing Heinschel. He is really, really good, and he's actually kind of pulling what I forgot what the old starter's name was. Started with an H too. But he kind of had a breakout year last year. And this year Heinschel's having the breakout year. So we will see how the Panthers will get this done, hopefully through the air, because their ground game, not so much. Now, the Pitt O-line is a little sus. That's why I said not so great on the run. And they're allowing a lot of sacks this year. I think the big battle you're going to want to watch is that stout Notre Dame D-line versus Pitt's O-line. How does that go? If we see Pitt getting pushed back, this could get ugly fast. If we see Pitt hold strong, we could see this maybe going into a shootout possibly, because that will give Heinschel the time he needs behind center. I think the rushing attack of Notre Dame versus Pitt's D-line will also be a very, very big key matchup. Pitt's D-line is the 3rd best in rush defense in the nation, and we all know that between Love and Jadavian Price, that Notre Dame can and will run the ball, so they will be trying to push that down. The sad thing is I don't see Pitt getting it done. They have struggled against good teams all season, allowing them to score more than 30 points. You look at even their losses to West Virginia and Louisville. They had double-digit leads in both of those games, only to give them away in really, really ugly fashion. And both of those were actually back-to-back. Again, they did switch to a new QB, which gave them new life, and they've been able to reel off 5 consecutive wins. But again, when it comes to competition, they're still allowing 30 points per game. I don't know if you can allow Notre Dame to score 30 points and still beat them. Maybe even more. Who knows? I think sadly this will be the beginning of Pitt's end of the year collapse. They had something very similar last year when they went on an 0-5 drubbing to finish the season. That was 5 straight losses. Again, maybe it's a turnaround. Who knows? I just don't like Narduzzi coming out this week and admitting defeat essentially, or just saying it doesn't matter. I think every game obviously matters. I mean, we're looking at every one of them. I'm going to be covering Virginia Tech's game next week like it's a freaking playoff game. So I think the least Pitt could do is take this game a little seriously. I think because of all these factors, and again, why would Narduzzi come out and say that, right? I think he kind of also sees what I'm seeing in the sense that when they play against competition, the defense is not holding up. And if you're not going to hold up against a Notre Dame team, you're probably going to get bludgeoned. I see this being a Notre Dame win, 35-24. Again, stranger things have happened this year. So maybe Pitt's defense can turn it around. They can shut CJ Carr down. They can keep the 2 running backs from Notre Dame at bay and shut them down. They've got a blueprint. There have been teams that have shut down the running game for Notre Dame. But again, I see where Notre Dame's trending. We saw what Pitt did last year. I've got Notre Dame. Moving on to the next game, we've got number 11 Oklahoma hoping to knock Alabama again out of the playoffs. It probably won't be playoffs, maybe the SEC, but they're taking on the number 4 Crimson Tide, who are 7.5-point favorites. John Mateer could have a day with his feet, and it will probably be necessary if Oklahoma wants to walk out of Tuscaloosa with a win. Alabama does struggle against mobile quarterbacks, with ranking at number 77th in QB draws or option plays, and they're 101st in yards per carry for QB. So they are allowing a lot of QBs to get far. Now, Alabama looks to be a better team, but like I said, they still struggle to move the ball on the ground, not able to get any sort of run game going, which again, when you have Ty Simpson doing what he's doing lately, it's not that bad of a deal. But you get into some competition, you get into a team that you lost to last year, this could be a problem for them, obviously, to not only extend drives, but to keep the ball away from John Mateer. Now, Brett Venables and Oklahoma will need to bring the pressure with a ton of blitzes to slow that Alabama aerial attack, because Ty Simpson so far goes from a 91 pass grade when he's in a clean pocket to a 48 when pressured. So we're talking about, again, like many quarterbacks, a tale of two QBs when they've got pressure on them and when they're in a clean pocket. If Brett Venables and his guys cannot get to Ty Simpson, this game could get ugly and ugly fast, especially with it being in Tuscaloosa. Just ask Vanderbilt. Oklahoma's linebackers will need to be stellar too, because Simpson loves to throw these medium throws to the center of the field. All of Alabama's wide receivers are grading out in the 90s in that section of the field. So that will be their soft and sweet spot for the Crimson Tide. Now, Oklahoma, on the other hand, struggles, and especially since Mateer's thumb surgery, has really struggled to throw the ball, which is kind of like a weird thing to say about Oklahoma. You usually think of Oklahoma, those Big 12 aerial offenses. Not so much this year. They are really doing it on the back of their run game and John Mateer's feet. They are currently, sadly, ranking 90th in yards per pass, number 79th in yards per game, and 86th in completion percentage. You compare that and put that against Bama, who has an incredible secondary. This game will absolutely hinge on who can raise the level of their weaknesses. Basically, who can eliminate those weaknesses, play to the best of their abilities, and try and not make their weaknesses as bad as they are, because the other team will absolutely exploit it. The only way realistically I see Oklahoma winning this is if Ty Simpson has an off day. The Sooners maybe get great field position because they are number one once they're in the red zone. They have 100% scoring efficiency when it comes to being in the red zone. And if Oklahoma can stretch drives, keep the ball away, like I said, from Ty Simpson and co., and maybe get some first downs with John Mateer's legs. Again, I realistically am not going to see that happening. I do see this being like a race to 24. I see Alabama getting there first, winning 24-20. In our last game of the weekend, we have got the number 10 Texas Longhorns taking on the number 5 Georgia Bulldogs, who are a 6.5-point favorite. This game was supposed to be a blockbuster at the beginning of the year. A lot of people had this marked down, couldn't wait to see this. This was by the time they got here, hopefully 2 undefeated teams, or maybe 1 loss, not in the way you're thinking. The Longhorns sadly are looking for revenge after back-to-back losses to UGA in the regular season and SEC championship last year. But as the 2025 season would have it, this game is looking a little bit more one-sided, right? UGA has one of the better rush defenses, ranking in the top 25 in almost every metric, whereas Texas look like their running backs have cinder blocks on their cleats, struggling to run the ball, ranking in the 80s in almost every metric of rushing. Now, that means the Longhorns, like most games this season, will go as Arch Manning goes. Luckily, he's been on a bit of a heater, ranking in the top 20 in the last 3 to 4 weeks and putting up more than 330 yards in their last 2 games against SEC teams. Now, while the Longhorn QB is trending up, their defense that was highly touted for the majority of this season has been on a dip the last 2 weeks, allowing 30 or more points from Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Again, if this was like, Alabama or LSU, well, not LSU, but let's just say, I don't know, Texas A&M, it wouldn't be as bad to allow those teams to score 30. But when you're letting Mississippi State and Vandy put up 30 on you, not sure you're the real deal. So the real question in this game is, can Texas's defense get their act together? Can they be what they were the first 5 games of this season? Because Gunnar Stockton and the Georgia Bulldog offense is clicking. And not to mention UGA is a top 30 team running the ball, meaning they will probably own the time of possession. Now, if Texas wants to walk out a winner, they will need to keep the ball away from the Bulldog offense and disrupt their slow and methodical drives. We're going to have to see a lot of chaos in this game, maybe on special teams, or maybe even through, I just don't know how Texas is just going to, like Alabama, just all of a sudden going to develop a run game. But if you can keep Gunnar Stockton and his cohorts off the field, again, you probably will win this game. And if, as long as Arch Manning is in a clean pocket, doesn't make mistakes, doesn't feel pressured, maybe Texas can walk out of this. I sadly don't think so. I think UGA is going to take this home. I think it'll be a close game. 28-24 is my prediction. We do have some week 10 upsets we want to keep an eye on. I didn't want to cover them going too deep, but we want to keep an eye on Clemson versus Louisville. Remember, guys, fans, we need Clemson to win this. Knock Louisville, give Louisville their second loss in conference. We've also got the UVA Duke game. This is, man, this is just one of those things where we definitely need Duke to win. But if we have Duke win, we are one infinity stone closer to the ACC apocalypse situation happening, where a 4-loss Duke team that isn't rated right now could win the ACC. I don't know if I want that. I don't even know if that's possible, but we are keeping an eye because Duke has been playing well. They're only 4-1 in conference. UVA is coming off a loss. How do they bounce back? They lost their quarterback. Does Chandler Morris come back? We'll have to wait and see. Next, the third and last game you're going to want to keep an eye on is that TCU BYU Big 12 matchup. Why, do you ask? Because BYU is ranked ahead of us, and a loss would put them behind us and would clear more of the field for us. Because again, big week these next 2 weeks for We need teams ahead of us to lose. We need to win out big if we really want to keep our college football playoff dreams alive. Well, guys, we have got another one in the books. Thank you all for watching. Until next week, be good, y'all. Win the weekend. And as always, go Canes.